The warship Draxon 7 floated above a dying planet. Its steel hull shimmered against the cold light of a distant sun. Inside, the air was filled with the echo of marching boots and the deep, metallic laughter of soldiers who thought themselves invincible. At the center of the command chamber stood General Varric, the iron fang of the Valari Empire. His scales were black as burnt stone, his eyes glowing like amber fire. Every creature in the room feared him. Every voice went silent when he turned. But today the silence was broken by laughter. The general laughed first, then the soldiers followed. In front of them stood a small figure in a torn gray suit, a soldier who looked nothing like any species they had seen. His armor was cracked, his body thin, his eyes hidden beneath a dirty helmet visor. He was bound by glowing restraints that pulsed with blue energy. "A pathetic thing," General Varric said with a cruel smile. "You dare come alone to the battlefield of the Valari. What species are you, little worm?" The figure said nothing. He only breathed slowly. His chest rose and fell in calm rhythm, too calm for a prisoner. One of the alien officers pushed him forward. "General, he was found near the wreckage of the destroyed outpost. He fought alone. We counted 12 of our dead before we caught him." 12? Varric raised an eyebrow ridge. This creature?" Laughter roared again through the chamber. The officer nodded. "He used strange weapons, General. Energy signatures unknown. His armor. We can't identify its origin." Varric leaned closer. The creature looked up slightly. Behind that cracked visor, two small blue eyes shone. Cold, sharp, unblinking. "Remove his helmet," Varric ordered. The guard stepped forward, pressing a metal claw against the latch. The prisoner didn't resist. The helmet came off with a hiss, and for a moment the room fell silent. It was face, soft skin, no scales, no horns, no exoskeleton. Just flesh and bone. A fragile creature, weak, unarmored. The silence broke again into thunderous laughter. "By the stars, it's a child," one alien shouted. "Not even armored skin," another mocked. Varric grinned, showing his sharp teeth. "This is the warrior who killed 12 Valari soldiers? Ridiculous." But the prisoner's eyes did not move. He looked at none of them. He stared straight ahead, into nothing, as if he didn't hear or didn't care. "You think you're brave?" the general asked, stepping closer, his heavy boots echoing against the floor. "Tell me your name, insect." No answer. Varric's tail twitched. "You do not speak our tongue? Or are you too frightened?" Still no answer. Only that calm, slow breathing. Something about it made the general pause for a second. Just a second. Before he laughed again. "Very well. If you won't speak, we'll make you scream. Bring the translator. I want to know what kind of fool comes here to die." The guards dragged the prisoner toward the interrogation deck. Blue lights blinked on, scanning his armor fragments, his pulse, his DNA. One of the alien scientists frowned. "General, there's something odd here." "What now?" Varric growled. "The readings, they're inconsistent. His biology doesn't match any recorded species. No match in the galactic database. It's almost as if he doesn't exist," Varric smirked. "A ghost, then. Maybe the galaxy grows bored of us and sends shadows." But the scientist didn't smile. "No, General. There's more. His blood chemistry, it's extremely oxygen-rich. His cells, they burn energy faster than ours." "Meaning?" Varric demanded. The scientist hesitated. "Meaning this creature is built for survival. In harsh worlds. Extreme gravity. Toxic air," the general laughed again. "And yet he stands here shaking." "Some survivor." The alien soldiers laughed too. One of them poked the prisoner's chest with a weapon. "Tell us, fragile one, how did you kill 12 of our men?" "With prayers." Finally, the prisoner moved. He lifted his head slowly. His voice came out hoarse but steady through cracked lips. "You counted wrong," he said. The room went silent. General Varric blinked. "What did it say?" He said, "We counted wrong, sir." The officer repeated in disbelief. Varric's amusement returned, dark and loud. "Oh, I like this one. We'll see how long that courage lasts." He leaned in close, his breath smelling like iron and smoke. "You are nothing but a mistake, little creature. A soft, dying world must have birthed you, if that world still exists at all." The prisoner's lips curved slightly. "It doesn't," he whispered. "But its soldiers do." The general frowned. What? Before he could ask again, the prisoner smiled. Not in fear, but in something colder, something almost human. That smile made the general's scales tighten. He turned away quickly. Lock him in the lower chamber. I'll deal with him myself after the briefing. I want to see what breaks first, his bones or his pride. As the guards dragged the prisoner out, the hum of the ship filled the air again. But somewhere deep inside, a faint unease began to crawl through the alien ranks, a feeling they couldn't explain. The general ignored it. He didn't notice the small device blinking faintly on the prisoner's wrist, hidden beneath the broken armor. A pulse. A signal. Someone or something was listening. And in the endless dark outside the ship, far beyond their scanners, a shadow stirred. The cold light of the Valari prison deck flickered like dying stars. Metal walls, black and silver, echoed with distant machinery and deep alien growls. The captured soldier sat on the floor, his hands still bound by glowing cuffs. His armor was cracked, his face covered with dust and dried blood. But his eyes were calm, too calm. The guards outside the force field laughed as they watched him through the glass. Still breathing? One sneered. Maybe this creature doesn't know fear. Fear? The other scoffed. It doesn't even know where it is. Probably some lost animal. They didn't notice that the prisoner was listening to everything. Every word, every sound, every hum of the ship's core. He wasn't broken. He was studying. Inside his mind, he mapped the rhythm of the lights, the timing of the guard steps, the sound pattern of the energy shield. It was habit, training, something old, buried deep in muscle memory, something only humans once knew how to do. For a long time, the aliens had believed humanity was extinct. But the truth was, they had only gone silent. General Varric entered the chamber again, his heavy boots echoing against the floor. He looked down at the prisoner with amusement. Still alive? Impressive. Your kind bleeds slower than I thought. No reply. Only that calm stare again, Varric smirked. Do you know where you are, little worm? The prisoner tilted his head slightly. Inside your mistake, he said quietly. The general's grin faded for half a second. Then he laughed, loud and cruel. You think words will save you. You'll talk soon enough. Everyone does. He motioned to the guards. Bring the translator. A floating sphere of light entered the room. The Valari translator drone. It connected to the soldier's neural pattern, adjusting to his speech frequency. Now, Varric said, we can understand you properly. So tell me, what are you? The prisoner looked up. His voice came out steady, calm, and human. I am the reason your empire will fall. The general froze for a moment, then laughed again, forcing the sound to fill the silence. Fall because of you? A broken creature hiding behind a broken helmet? The prisoner didn't answer. Instead, he looked past the general, at the guards, the walls, the blinking lights. He was memorizing everything. Varric turned to his soldiers. Search his armor again. Find whatever toys he used to kill 12 of our men. The guards opened the metallic case on the table. What was left of the prisoner's weapons? A burnt rifle, a melted blade, and a small black cube, cracked but still pulsing faintly with blue light. What is that? One guard asked. Varric frowned. Some primitive bomb? The scientist scanned it. No explosive residue. It's some kind of beacon, but frequency unknown. Not galactic standard. Varric's voice grew dark. Destroy it. Before they could, the prisoner spoke. That's a bad idea. The general turned. Why? The soldier's lips curled slightly. Because it's already awake. At that same second, the cube blinked once. Then again, and then it went dark. The alien stared at it in confusion. Nothing happened? Varric's laugh returned. Empty threats, you see? Your toys are useless here. He kicked the cube across the floor. You are powerless, creature. But the prisoner's voice was still calm. Power is not always loud. The general's tail lashed the ground. Enough, lock him deeper. I'll question him after we contact the High Council. As the guards pulled him up, the prisoner stumbled, but didn't fall. His body was weak, his legs shaking, yet his eyes burned with quiet fire. One guard mocked him. Stand, little thing. You can't even walk straight. The prisoner's voice was low but sharp. I don't need to. That moment, just a flicker, something in the alien's mind shivered. The look in the prisoner's eyes wasn't weakness. It was focus. Like a hunter waiting for a signal. They threw him into a darker cell deep in the ship's lower decks, alone. But even there, he didn't rest. He sat cross-legged on the cold metal floor, whispering something under his breath, soft, rhythmic words the translator couldn't decode. A human code, a call up in the command deck. General Varric stood before the ship's holographic display. The sensor map blinked with faint red waves. "Sir," the navigation officer said, "we're picking up strange interference. Small, scattered pulses, almost like a transmission." Varric frowned. "From where?" "From inside the ship." "Impossible. All comms are under my control." The officer swallowed. "Yet, it's coming from the lower decks, General, near the prison cells." For the first time, silence fell over the bridge. Varric's claws clicked against the metal floor. "Seal the lower decks. No signals go in or out." But the pulses kept appearing. Weak, random, almost like whispers through static. The technician looked confused. "It's not trying to send a message. It's calling something." Varric's voice dropped low. "Calling what?" No one answered. Down in the dark cell, the prisoner opened his eyes. The faint light from the cube reflected on his wrist, where the small hidden signal device blinked once more. He looked calm, but his heartbeat was steady and strong. He whispered one word under his breath. Soon, on the command bridge, alarms suddenly blared. "General, something just appeared on the long-range scanner." "What is it?" Varric demanded. The officer's eyes widened. "A ship, sir?" "No, many ships. They're coming out of stealth range." Varric's voice thundered. "Identify them." The technician's screen flickered, then froze. The alien's eyes went wide in disbelief. "No records, sir. No known Empire signature. Only one word on their signal ID." "What word?" The technician hesitated. "Human." The bridge fell silent. Varric's claws dug into the floor, his breath growing heavy. "Impossible," he whispered. But far below, in the dark, the prisoner smiled for the first time. The alarms on Draxon 7 had not stopped since the last report. The red lights flashed across the steel corridors, painting the walls in a rhythm of fear. The alien crew ran from console to console, shouting updates. But no one had a clear answer. Something unseen was moving in the dark beyond their scanners. Something silent, fast and precise. General Varric stood on the bridge, his face half hidden in the red glow. "Where did those signals go?" he demanded. "Nowhere, sir," the officer said, panic in his voice. "They vanished, like shadows," Varric growled low. "No ship can vanish under Valari sensors." "Find them!" The officer swallowed. "We are trying, General." "But the interference, it's inside our own systems." Varric turned slowly. "Inside?" "Yes, sir. It's like someone infected the ship's mainframe." The general's tail slammed against the floor. "Then purge it, now!" But deep down, he already knew. Something had slipped through, and it all started when they captured him. Far below, in the cold darkness of the lower deck, the prisoner sat with his back against the wall. The faint light from his wrist beacon blinked slower now, almost like it was breathing with him. He could hear the muffled alarms echoing above. A thin smile crossed his face. "Right on time," he whispered softly. The door opened with a hiss. A young alien officer entered, holding a shock staff. "You," he barked. "The general wants answers. Now." The prisoner didn't move. The officer stepped closer, his voice trembling slightly. "What did you do to our systems?" The human lifted his eyes. "Nothing you can stop." The alien swung the staff forward, pressing the end against the prisoner's chest. Blue energy sparked, but the man didn't scream. He just looked at him. Calm, cold. That scared the officer more than any scream could. He took a step back. What are you?" The prisoner's voice was quiet but heavy. "A mistake you shouldn't have made." Meanwhile, on the bridge, the ship's scientist was staring at a screen filled with data streams. His claws tapped nervously. "General," he said, "I've been studying the creature's armor fragments." Varric turned toward him. "And, sir?" "The technology is older than our empire, yet the materials are advanced. Self-healing alloy, adaptive fiber layers. It shouldn't exist," the general frowned. "Explain." The scientist hesitated. "There's a reference in ancient war archives, thousands of cycles ago. A race that built weapons like this. A race that nearly wiped out half the galaxy before they vanished." The general's voice dropped to a whisper. You're saying... The scientist nodded slowly. Humanity, Varric's jaw tightened. That's impossible. Humans were destroyed before our time. Maybe not all of them, sir, the scientist said, his voice shaking. Maybe one survived, or they hid. The general turned toward the viewing window. The endless stars stared back at him. For the first time, he felt something strange crawling through his chest. Not anger, not pride, but doubt. Down in the cell, the guards dragged the prisoner back to the command chamber. The general wanted to see him again. When the doors opened, everyone fell silent. The man's steps were slow but steady. His face was calm, his eyes sharp. Even the strongest Valari soldiers felt a chill when those eyes met theirs. There was no fear in them, only quiet confidence. Varric crossed his arms. You are a ghost, he said. A species long gone. Tell me, how do you exist? The human tilted his head. Existence is easy. Survival is harder. The general slammed his fist into the table. Do not mock me. The human looked up. You did that first. The words cut deeper than a blade. Every soldier in the room looked at their general, waiting, silent. Varric growled, stepping closer until his breath hit the prisoner's face. You think you frighten me, human? No, the man replied softly. I remind you. The general's eyes flared. Of what? The human's voice turned low, almost a whisper. Of the last thing your ancestors saw before their worlds burned. The silence that followed was heavy. Even the hum of the ship seemed to stop. Varric's scales twitched, and he stepped back slowly. What do you mean? The human's smile was thin. You study history, don't you? Tell me. What happened to the first empire that ruled before yours? The scientist's eyes widened. That empire vanished in firestorms. Entire planets erased. The human nodded. We called it retaliation. A cold wind of realization passed through the room. It wasn't possible. It shouldn't be possible. Yet every instinct screamed that this was no lie. Varric broke the silence with a roar. Enough, guards, silence him. Two soldiers moved forward, but before they could touch the human, the ship's lights flickered again. Then total darkness. The red emergency lights flashed back on. The console sparked. Every monitor now showed a single word, repeating, glowing in white letters. Hello, the crew shouted in confusion. It's taking over the mainframe. The general turned sharply to the human. What did you do? The man's face was half lit by the red glow. His calm voice carried through the chaos. You made the first mistake, General. What mistake? Varric shouted. You brought me aboard. The floor shook. Somewhere outside, something huge hit the ship's shields. The impact echoed like thunder. Sirens screamed across every deck, multiple contacts. The officer yelled, Unknown ships are surrounding us. Varric's voice cracked. How many? Dozens. Maybe hundreds. The general turned to the human. But he was already standing straight now, his head held high. His voice was quiet, almost gentle. You thought we were gone, he said. But humans never disappear, General. We adapt, we endure. And when the time is right. He looked up as another explosion rocked the ship. We return. The warship Draxon 7 trembled again, shaking dust and sparks from the ceiling. Outside, the stars flashed with light. Brief bursts of energy, like silent explosions in the dark. Inside the bridge, panic filled the air. Shields are failing, General, the officer shouted. There are too many ships. Another yelled. They're faster than anything we've seen. General Varric slammed his claws on the console. Identify them.
I want to know who dares attack a Valari warship.
The sensors blinked, showing ghostly outlines of ships, sharp, black, and sleek. Their patterns didn't match any known species. No communication, no broadcast, no flag. Only one word pulsed through the static. Human. The general's voice dropped low. That word again. He turned toward the prisoner, the quiet man now standing calmly at the center of chaos. His wrists still glowed with restraints, but he looked untouched by fear. What are they? Varric demanded. The human raised his eyes slowly. Old friends. You woke them. The general's chest tightened. You sent for them? The human didn't answer. His calm silence was louder than any scream. Varric growled. You're bluffing. Humans are extinct. Just stories from the dark archives. The scientist stepped forward, his voice trembling. General, the data doesn't lie. These ships, Their energy signature matches the lost human archives from the First Empire. Same structure. Same drive pattern. Varric turned sharply. That's impossible. The scientist swallowed hard. Impossible. But true. Down in the cell decks, alarms wailed. The Valari soldiers scrambled to secure power conduits. The ship's AI screamed warnings in a dozen alien languages. Then suddenly, silence. All lights went out. Only the soft hum of backup power remained. The main systems had gone offline. The human's eyes glowed faintly in the red emergency light. "You wanted to know the truth, General," he said softly. "Here it is." Varric's voice shook with fury. "You think this will save you? You and your ghosts will burn." The human smiled slightly. "You don't understand. You already lost." On the outer hull, the attacking ships moved with impossible speed. They didn't fire lasers or missiles. Instead, thin lines of blue light wrapped around the Draxon 7, slicing its shields apart like threads of silk. Inside, sparks rained from the ceilings. The bridge flickered as systems failed one by one. "General," the communications officer cried, "they've breached the network." "The ship's computer is—" The screen cut out mid-sentence. Then it came back on, displaying a single symbol, a circle with 2 lines crossing it, the ancient human insignia. The crew gasped. None of them had ever seen it before, but something about it felt heavy, powerful, old. "What is that?" one of the soldiers whispered. The human spoke softly, almost like a teacher explaining a lesson. "That was the mark of Earth's last defense fleet. The symbol of humanity's vengeance." The words made every alien in the room freeze. Even Varric couldn't move. He stared at the symbol glowing bright on every screen, his reflection flickering inside it. The scientist turned slowly toward the human. "We thought your kind was destroyed." The man's voice stayed calm. "No, we simply stopped talking." "Why?" the scientist asked, almost whispering. The human looked up. His eyes were cold but sad. "Because talking to monsters never worked," Varric roared, slamming his claws against the table. "Enough of your riddles. You are one creature against thousands. You can't win." The human tilted his head slightly. "Winning isn't always the goal." "What is then?" the general hissed, reminding the galaxy why they feared us. The silence that followed was heavy, thick with realization. The Valari soldiers stepped back slowly, their confidence fading into dread. The human's words carried no hatred, no rage, only truth. And that made them even more terrifying. The bridge trembled again. One of the officers screamed, "General, their ships are inside our defense perimeter. They're moving without engines, no heat, no noise." "Impossible," Varric shouted. "How?" Before he could finish, the main display changed again. A face appeared, human but wearing dark armor and a helmet with glowing blue lines. It looked straight at Varric. "Valari vessel," the voice said through static. "You have something that belongs to us." Varric's breath caught. "Who are you?" The voice ignored him. "Release our man, now." The general's claws tightened around the console. "And if I refuse?" The voice paused for a moment, then replied, calm and cold. "Then we take you with him." The transmission ended. Every alien on the bridge turned to their general, waiting for orders. Varric's mind raced. Pride told him to fight, but instinct screamed run. He turned toward the human prisoner again. "If you think you can scare me," the man interrupted softly. "General, look outside." Varric hesitated, then slowly turned his gaze toward the viewing window. Beyond the glass, hundreds of ships had formed a perfect circle around the Draxon 7. No weapons pointed at them. No movement, just silence, waiting. A signal flashed between them, a ripple of blue light. And then the stars vanished. The alien crew gasped. Their scanners went blind. Every star, every planet, every signal disappeared from sight, swallowed by a dark wave spreading from the human fleet. "What? What is that?" one soldier cried. The human looked up at the black void outside. "That's the truth," he said softly. "We don't fight for planets anymore. We fight for memory." The general stared at him, trembling with both anger and fear. "You're bluffing." "You wouldn't destroy us," the human met his gaze. "You mocked the last of my kind. You studied our history. You called us extinct." He stepped forward, eyes glowing faintly under the emergency lights. "Now you'll learn why extinction was never enough." The general stepped back. For the first time in his life, he didn't know what to say. Every system on the ship was dead. Every weapon was silent. And outside, the dark human fleet waited, patient and merciless. The scientist whispered under his breath, "Gods help us." "They're real." The human turned his head slightly. "We don't need gods," he said. "We became our own." The bridge of the Draxon 7 was silent. Only the low hum of the dying engines filled the air. The alien crew stood frozen at their stations, staring at the endless blackness outside. A space where even the stars had gone dark. The human fleet still surrounded them, unmoving, glowing faintly like ghosts in the void. No one spoke. No one dared to. At the center of the bridge, the prisoner, the human, stood tall. His restraints flickered, then went out completely as if the ship itself had released him. He flexed his hands slowly, looking around the room. General Varric broke the silence first. "What do you want from us?" he demanded, forcing his voice to sound strong. "Why are you here?" The man's reply was quiet. "You wanted the truth. Now you'll hear it," Varric growled, but he said nothing. The human took a slow breath, and his eyes seemed to drift far away, beyond the stars, beyond the war, beyond time itself. "Thousands of cycles ago," he began, "there was a world called Earth. A small blue planet full of oceans, storms, and fire. It was our home, fragile but alive." The aliens listened, silent, unable to look away. "We built cities that touched the sky, machines that reached the stars. We wanted peace, but we were never good at keeping it. We fought, with each other and with anyone who tried to control us." He smiled faintly, not with pride, but sadness. "And then the galaxy noticed." Varric frowned. "The Valari Empire noticed. We offered you peace," the human shook his head. "You offered chains. You called it peace because you were afraid of what we might become." His voice grew colder. "You remember what your ancestors did, don't you? You came to our world with your ships, your weapons, your fire from the sky. You called it a test of strength. You burned our cities to ash. You left only silence." Varric's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. "We fought back," the human continued, his tone even. "But we were too late. Earth died, and with it most of us. The survivors scattered. Some were taken as slaves. Some vanished into deep space." He paused, looking directly at the general. "And some of us waited," the alien scientist whispered softly. "Waited? For what?" "For the day the stars would forget us," the human replied. "Because when you forget the human race, you make the same mistake your ancestors did. You stop being afraid." He stepped closer, his boots echoing on the steel floor. "And fear, General, keeps monsters like you in line." Varric's tail lashed behind him, but his voice trembled slightly now. "You think fear is power?" The human's eyes narrowed. "No, fear is the memory of power." A flash of light appeared outside the viewing window, soft and white. Every alien turned to look. For a second, the black void cleared, showing something beyond the fleet. It wasn't a planet. It wasn't a ship. It was a projection, a giant image floating in the stars, a blue sphere surrounded by white clouds. Earth. The Valari soldiers gasped. Some even stepped back in shock. They had seen this world before, in their ancient war records. It was supposed to be gone, burned, dead. The human looked at the image quietly. "You took this from us," he said. "But you couldn't destroy what it meant. Every child we lost, every city you erased, they became part of the story you couldn't kill." Varric stared at the glowing sphere. "That world is gone." "Yes," the human said softly. "But echoes remain." He pointed toward the fleet outside. "Each of those ships carries a piece of Earth, its soil, its air, its memory. We kept it alive piece by piece. That's what we became. The echo of Earth." For a long moment no one spoke. Even the ship itself seemed to listen. Finally Varric broke the silence. "If you have come for revenge, then end it. Destroy us." The human looked at him calmly. "Destroying you would be easy. But we're not here to repeat your mistake." The general frowned. "Then what do you want?" "Truth," the human said simply. "And justice." He stepped closer, his voice low and clear. "You will tell your people that humans are not extinct. You will tell them that the ones they called primitive are still out here, watching, waiting." The general's eyes narrowed. "And if we don't?" The human smiled, a small, tired smile. "Then your empire will learn what extinction really feels like." The scientist looked down at his trembling hands. "You can't win against the Volari fleet," he whispered. "We rule hundreds of systems." The human turned to him. "You rule today. So did every empire before you. But the universe doesn't remember kings, Doctor. It remembers survivors." The words hung in the air like a shadow. Outside, the human fleet began to move. One by one, their ships powered down their weapons. They weren't attacking. They were waiting for their soldier to return. A voice came through the comms again. The same calm, human voice from before. "Mission complete. Extraction ready." The human prisoner, now free, turned to Varric one last time. "You should be thankful, General." "For what?" Varric hissed. "For laughter," the man said quietly. "It's the last sound you'll ever hear before you understand what fear really is." The general frowned. "What do you mean?" The human didn't answer. He pressed something on his wrist. A faint pulse of blue light blinked. Then a sound echoed through the ship. Laughter. Not human, not alien. Something else, distorted, hollow, echoing from every speaker. It was his voice, replayed through the system. The sound of the general's own mockery. The aliens froze, horrified, as their own laughter filled the room. The same laughter they had used to humiliate the weak soldier. The man turned toward the exit hatch, his shadow stretching across the floor. "Now you know how it feels." The hatch opened with a hiss. A beam of blue light surrounded him, and in a flash he was gone, teleported back to his fleet. On the bridge, silence returned. The laughter faded into static. Outside, the human ships turned and vanished into the dark, leaving nothing but drifting dust and fear behind. General Varric stood still, staring at the empty space where the human had been. "Sir?" a soldier whispered. "Should we pursue?" Varric didn't answer. He looked at the stars, then at his trembling claws. "Prepare a message," he said finally, his voice hollow. "To the High Council. Tell them. Humans still live." The stars had gone silent. On the bridge of the Draxon 7, General Varric stood motionless, his eyes fixed on the empty space where the human fleet had vanished. The silence felt wrong, too deep, too heavy, as if the galaxy itself was holding its breath. The alien crew worked nervously at their stations, trying to bring the ship's systems back online. But every command ended the same way. Error codes, red warnings, and ghost signals flickering across their monitors. "Sir," said the communications officer, voice trembling. "All channels are down. Even our internal systems are not responding properly." Varric turned sharply. "That's impossible." The humans left. "There's no interference," the officer hesitated. "Then why is the ship humming?" Everyone fell quiet. Yes, there it was. A deep vibration, slow and rhythmic, pulsing through the walls of the ship like a heartbeat. It wasn't mechanical. It sounded alive. "Track it," Varric ordered. "Find the source." They traced it, but the signal wasn't coming from outside. It was inside the ship. The science officer's eyes widened. "It's spreading through the power core, sir. It's rewriting our systems." "Rewriting?" Varric hissed. "By what?" The officer swallowed hard. "By something. Human?" At that exact moment, lights across the bridge dimmed to a deep blue. Every screen flashed once, then went black. A second later, words appeared, glowing white on every display. "Earth remembers." No one moved. Varric's heart pounded in his chest. The words stayed on screen for several seconds before changing again. "We see you." Then one by one, the ship's holographic maps turned back on. But this time, they weren't showing alien star charts. They were showing human faces, old faces. Soldiers, scientists, children from centuries ago. 1,000 forgotten images from a lost world. "What is this?" whispered the communications officer. "How do they have access to our archives?" The human faces began to fade into symbols, data streams, coordinates, and strange markings forming a massive pattern. "It's not random," the science officer said, leaning closer. "It's a code." Varric's voice dropped to a whisper. "A code for what?" The officer didn't answer at first. He looked terrified. A code. To wake something. The vibration grew louder. The floor beneath them shook. Outside, something flickered in the darkness. A faint light, distant but growing, spreading across the empty void like ripples in water. Varric turned to the window. "What now?" The light expanded, forming a massive outline of a structure. At first they thought it was a planet, but no. It was metal. An ancient station, dark, colossal, half buried in shadow. It's human, whispered one of the soldiers. But this is impossible. No one could have built something this large. Varric stared in disbelief. A fortress? The science officer nodded weakly. No, sir. A vault. The vault began to awaken. Thousands of lights flickered across its surface, forming circles and spirals that looked like constellations. From its core, a massive energy surge spread through the nearby systems, echoing across the galaxy. Every alien ship within range received the same message. Awakening protocol engaged. Within minutes, the Valari Empire's central command center was flooded with alerts. Entire fleets reported systems going dark, navigation failing, and communications hijacked by an unknown signal, one that carried only 2 words: human signal detected. Back on the Draxon 7, panic had begun. Officers shouted, trying to stabilize the engines, but nothing worked. Varric slammed his fist on the control table. Shut it down! Do something. We can't! The chief engineer shouted. It's spreading faster than we can block it. Where's it coming from? The engineer looked up, face pale. It's not coming from anywhere, sir. It's coming through everything. It's like he stopped mid-sentence. Every screen flashed again. A new symbol appeared, a glowing white circle surrounded by 3 rings. The science officer gasped. That's the insignia of the Terran Defense Network. It hasn't been seen in over 5 centuries. Varric turned slowly toward him. You mean the humans reactivated a dead system? The officer's voice trembled. Not reactivated, sir. It never died. Then, a sound echoed through space, a single note. Deep, powerful, and haunting. It was followed by another, and another. The sound was not just noise. It was a signal, spreading through subspace faster than light. It carried data, emotion, and something more. A pulse of life. Ships across the nearby sectors began to detect it. Valari admirals watched helplessly as their fleets turned silent. Sensors blinded by human code. Their ships weren't being attacked. They were being overwritten. Varric's communications officer screamed, Sir, we're receiving a direct transmission. From who? She hesitated. From the human you captured, the general froze. Put it through. The view screen flickered, and there he was. The same human soldier standing inside a dimly lit command room, surrounded by holograms of his fleet. Hello again, General, he said quietly. Did you really think we came here just to talk? Varric's claws tightened. What have you done? I told you, the human replied, voice calm. We waited. He pointed at something behind him, the glowing blue map of the vault. That signal you're seeing? That's not a weapon. It's a memory. Call to every human still hiding in the dark. He leaned closer to the screen, his eyes glowing faintly blue. We are awakening what your empire tried to bury. Our history, our strength, our purpose, the general snarled. You can't win against us. We have more ships, more planets, more power. The human smiled faintly. You always did. He took a breath, and for the first time his tone hardened. But power means nothing when the ones you rule are no longer afraid. The connection cut abruptly. Outside, the vault's core burst into full light, a blinding blue sphere. Every ship, every satellite, every sensor within 10 light-years shut down instantly. When the light faded, the vault had changed. Dozens of massive structures had detached from its surface. Ships unlike anything seen before. Bleak, dark, and silent. The science officer whispered in awe, Sir, those aren't ships. Varric turned slowly. Then what are they? They're human sleepers, the officer said. People, waking up. Varric stared at the colossal scene before him. Thousands of human stasis pods releasing light, forming ranks across the void. Each ship pulsed once with blue energy, then vanished into warp, heading toward different corners of the galaxy. The general's voice dropped to a whisper. What have we done? Deep inside the vault, a human voice echoed. Not the soldiers, but an older, deeper one transmitted across space. This is Commander Elias Kane of the Terran Defense Network. To the stars that forgot us and we are awake. The galaxy burned with light. Every world, every outpost, every fleet in the Valari Empire had gone silent. Systems that had never failed in centuries now flickered and died. one by one. No one knew what was happening, but everyone felt it. Something ancient was waking up. General Varric stood at the edge of his bridge, staring into the chaos outside. The stars were no longer steady. They pulsed with a strange blue rhythm, the same color as that human vault, the same color as the message that haunted him. Earth remembers. His officers worked frantically behind him. "Sir, half our ships are offline," one shouted. "The Central Command isn't responding," yelled another. And then the worst report came. "Sir, we're losing planets." Varric turned sharply. "What do you mean, losing planets?" The officer swallowed hard. "Not destroyed, sir. Emptied. Cities gone. Outposts vanished. No explosions. Just gone." The general's claws trembled. He remembered the human soldier's words. "You will tell them that the ones they called primitive are still watching, waiting." He turned back toward the dark window, and his reflection stared back at him. A proud warrior who now looked afraid. For the first time in his life, he felt small. Far across the galaxy above a ruined moon, the human fleet assembled. Thousands of ships, black, silent, precise, moved like a single living being. At the center of it all stood the ship called Echo 1, commanded by Commander Elias Kane, the voice that had echoed through every Valari system in Part 6. He stood on his command deck, watching the holographic map of the galaxy fill with red dots. Valari worlds, colonies and strongholds. "Are the fleets in position?" he asked quietly. A woman beside him, Captain Lyra Holt, nodded. "Yes, sir. Phase 1 complete. Every system within range has received the signal. The awakening is spreading faster than predicted." Kane's eyes stayed on the map. "Good. Then it begins." He looked to his crew, each one silent, calm, and ready. "For Earth," he said softly. And the fleet moved. Within minutes, human ships blinked into enemy space, not firing, not attacking. Instead, they released waves of light pulses, invisible signals that spread like ripples through the stars. The Valari ships caught in the waves froze. Their weapons stopped responding. Their engines powered down. From inside the Draxon 7, Varric watched helplessly as one of his fleets simply stopped moving. "What are they doing to us?" he demanded. The science officer shook his head, his voice trembling. "It's not a weapon, sir. It's control. They're taking over our systems." Varric slammed his claws into the console. "Then fight it." "We can't." The officer looked up with wide eyes. "They're using our own tech against us. The signal is rewriting our core protocols." "How is that possible?" Varric shouted. The officer's answer came like a whisper of death. "Because, sir, our technology was built from theirs." Silence. The general froze. "What did you say?" The scientist looked terrified. "The old records and from the early expansion era. Our first AI systems, our first star drives. They came from ancient ruins. The ones we found on a dead blue planet centuries ago." Varric's voice dropped. "Earth," the officer nodded. "It was human. We just didn't know." The bridge went cold. Suddenly, the holographic screen flickered. A familiar face appeared. The human soldier Varric had once captured. "General," the man said, calm and steady. "Do you understand now?" Varric's voice shook. You planned this for centuries," the human nodded. "We built everything that made your empire possible. Your power, your machines, your arrogance. You grew strong on our ashes." He stepped closer to the screen. "No, you'll see what happens when the ashes burn back." Outside, the human fleet began its true assault. They didn't use missiles or plasma beams. They used silence, shutting down communications, corrupting data, blinding sensors. Entire Valari armadas turned into drifting metal husks in seconds. The humans weren't fighting for destruction. They were erasing fear. And through the chaos, a single message repeated across every Valari frequency. "We are not your enemy. We are your reminder." Inside the Draxon 7, lights flickered. Sparks flew from broken consoles. The general's command bridge was collapsing into panic. "Sir, the main reactor's overloading. Shields are gone. Evacuate." But Varric didn't move. He stood in silence, staring at the human's image. "Why?" he asked softly. "Why spare us? You could end us all." The human's expression softened. "Because we were once like you, proud, cruel, blind. Someone has to break the cycle." He paused, then added, "But you will remember this day. You'll remember the sound of laughter." "And what came after?" The transmission faded. Moments later, the entire human fleet vanished. Every ship gone. Every signal silent, leaving behind thousands of dead alien ships and one terrified empire. When the static cleared, the Valari systems came back online. But something had changed. Every world now carried a new broadcast, the same phrase repeating endlessly in every language. Earth remembers. Humanity endures. Fear the kindness you mocked. General Varric stood alone on the bridge of his half-ruined ship. He looked out into the stars, his reflection flickering against the shattered glass. He whispered the words that would later spread across the galaxy. The weak soldier was never weak. He was human, and for the first time in Valari history, the conquerors felt fear.